Whenever it comes to companies like Google or Amazon or even Apple, storing your data is one of the most convenient things to do whenever you use their services. Usually if you want a secure place to store your data, you go to encryption websites to encrypt your data and then upload it, or you have hard drives. Physical hard drives that you'll just hold for as long as they'll stay relevant. But for those of us who don't like carrying a bunch of drives on us every day just to get a few pieces of information that we hold, this isn't really gonna do it. Now, yeah, we could just go ahead, upgrade our laptops to where they have a 1 terabyte hard drive or a 4 terabyte hard drive if we really wanted to. But then we have to deal with the operating system and then making sure that it actually takes the right file types and all that. And it's like, a bit too much. So why would you even want to do this at all? Well, because those services can be hacked and they also can lose data, just like you. But the only difference is those services also are more willing to sell your data to data brokers so they can get a bit of extra profit. Now, considering companies are only made to build a profit, it makes sense. But it's also not the safest or even most comforting thought. So here's how you can use a $20 Raspberry Pi and a $40 travel router to have your own mobile cloud network all to yourself without any prying eyes from companies. With the exception to like getting hacked from Wi-Fi, but that's different. You can always get hacked from Wi-Fi, like that's just kind of how it goes. Now, for those of you who didn't watch my last video on setting up a home server, this is the flag so you can do so, because we will be building off of that idea. So now we know why we're doing this. I'm going to do something a little different in terms of how I'm going to show you how to do these commands. The first thing we'll be doing is updating the known softwares available to us in our current version. We're going to run this command. The first thing we're going to be doing is updating and upgrading our system to make sure we have the latest and greatest of all the software versions available to us. Now, after we've updated all of the software that we need, we're going to then install the software that we're using, Samba. Only thing you need to know about that is it is a file server program meant to run a file server at home. Now, once that's installed, we need to make a specific folder for our cloud files to live and make sure that you remember exactly where the directory is so you can reference it later. Here comes the most complex part. We need to go to the configuration file, scroll all the way down to the bottom to edit and add the details that we need. This process will require sudo or super user privileges in order to enact, so it would be best to either talk to your system admin, mostly you if you've done this yourself, or whoever's in charge of having and giving sudo access to your server. To make it easier on you, these are the lines of code you need to add to the configuration file in order for this to work. Everything in green is optional in terms of naming and other things that you can call it. So I have mine in example name, but you can say John's cloud server or something. If you've done all this, the only thing you need to do from here is save and exit the configuration file, making sure you don't change anything you don't need to. Now that you've edited and saved the configuration file, the next thing you need to do is restart the Samba service so it registers whenever you're on the new network. Last thing you're going to need to do is actually give someone access. So if you are the server admin or you want to be on the server, you need to actually have an account on the server in order for it to work. I feel like I've said server so many times in this video, I feel like I should do a counter. I digress. Using this command, you can add people to your servers with a prompt for a password. Again, anything that's green is optional and customizable. And lastly, you will need to actually give someone passwords for access to the server. Now, this can be different from the server access password, so you have actual security, or it could just be the same thing so people know, ways of getting in and not forgetting them as easily. With all of this done, you have successfully made your own file server at home. How you've done it is dependent on you, but now how do you access it? Well, if you go into your router settings, most likely, I feel like that might be easiest for some people, maybe not, but if you go into your router settings, you can look at each individual item that is on your network. Looking for whatever you named your server, you can see it there. Type in this command with the IP address given from your router and whatever name you gave it. Whatever name you gave the file, I should say. That will give you access to the Samba server that you've just created. Now, you can also go ahead and add this to your files list whenever it asks for network compatible shared files. Oversimplifying it, but the network feature in your files folder, that's what you add it to. You can go ahead, type in this command with all of the changeable options, and then you have instant access to it as if you're basically using a USB drive. The only exception to this is if you do not have your network open to the web, then you will only be able to access it on your network. Other than that, it's perfectly fine. Now, just because you've done this project and you have access to it does not mean that your results will be able to compete with those of Google and Apple Cloud services. They are run with a lot of dedicated machinery, and that's part of the main gaps for this. Between storage limitations, 14 terabytes is much more than 4 terabytes available. And whenever you think about stuff like that, you also have to think about speed, network speed, just being able to have actual stable connection to it while transferring files. It can be a lot. But if you just wanted something quick, easy, and a quick little project to do, or you actually wanted a home server but didn't care about speeds like that, then this is quite literally perfect. With this all being said, things can still be hacked even if you are on a secure network, on a home network, and even if you do say you made the best password ever and it wasn't your pet's name or the year you went to school. Things can still be hacked regardless. If you try hard enough, you can find something, and even to this very day, we are still finding things out now that we didn't even think about before. That's all part of the process. But corrupted data is also a thing, so make sure you also keep up with your hardware requirements and making sure that nothing's in a place where it shouldn't be, collecting too much moisture or not even getting enough airflow. Big data centers also have this in mind as well, whenever they have something like giant fans or dedicated AC units to make sure that everything is at the perfect temperature. Okay, that is basically it for this tutorial-ish sort of thing, I guess. I don't really know what to call these, but I did want to try something very different, and I hope that it was at least informative, if nothing enjoyable, to watch me kind of mumble around everything. But to serious business, Windows 10 is becoming end of license. I have seen some posts about this on Reddit, and I did find one page specifically. It's a web page on how to migrate from Windows to Linux. I do have a video on Linux installing the operating system and everything, but I also suggest you check out that page as well to probably get a bit more information in terms of what you're doing. I definitely do recommend switching to Linux if you don't want to go out and buy the Windows 11 operating system, which is completely fair, and you don't really want a MacBook, which is also fair, although I do suggest it if you just want to buy a laptop at this rate. Don't blame you. But the main problem with Windows 11 is it has massive hardware requirements, which means you need to spend a lot of money on something that's probably perfectly fine for your use case. And if you stick to Windows 10, then they can have active vulnerabilities that nobody will care to patch. And if nobody cares to patch them, then you are at a constant risk of getting attacked. So with this in mind, I will link the page down below so you can weigh your options and debate whether or not this is a good thing for you. With that being said, thank you for watching. Have a nice day.